lost screaming in the system's maze. Lies unfold behind paper-thin walls. Stealing hope, ripping dreams, all the calls. Gunning for justice, we won't back down. Fighting for the lost in every broken town. Judges blind, caseworkers turn their eyes. Lift your fist, scream their lies won't paralyze. Families they shatter with the stroke of a pen. Truth buried deep, oh here we go again. Gunner's voice pounding, raising up the fight. Justice ain't a whisper, it's a battle tonight. Gunning for justice, we won't back down. Fighting for the Lord.
Hey, look. This for every mama got her baby snatched on some bogus shit. For every pops they locked out the crib like he ain't blood. CPS, y'all been eating off pain for too long. We know what you on. But now it's war, this gunning foe. CPS. Kick doors, no warrants, they taking our seeds. Say it's neglect, but they planting they greed. Feds in they pocket, judge got a fee. Run it like a business, adoption spree. Contracts overseas, got partners in France. But shorty from Shy, he ain't get a chance. Mama work 2 jobs, daddy do right, but they still snatch his baby in the middle of the night. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruined good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They labeled us monsters, called us unfit, but it's they paperwork dirty, all of it forged and flipped. How the fuck they selling babies to a bidder overseas? Then tell the fam you unworthy. Man, please, we got mamas in pain, daddies in tears. They breaking our hearts, been doing it for years. Now we riding with Gunner, and we got the proof. Sworn under oath, now it's time for truth. Trump got the team and the pen in his hand. He said bring them home, now that's the plan. You feds been hiding, but it's over now. We moving like an army, and we ain't bowing down. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruined good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They ain't gods, they ain't law, they just people. Corrupt people. And when the people rise, ain't no system safe. It's Chi-Town, it's the movement. We gunning for CPS, and we coming heavy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait.
Well, good evening, guys. Welcome to a special edition of our regular show of Gunning for CPS. Matter of fact, just for this edition, this particular one, we have our special guest backstage here getting ready to get started. But we've got something extra special for you guys, especially in Blount County, Tennessee. One of our artists that does a lot of our shows or videos, this is that, has come out with a new song specifically for Gunning for CPS and Blount County, Tennessee. Here you go, guys. Premiering here. If I can get the thing to work. Sorry, technical difficulty with the screen. It's a little sensitive. I don't know if it'll let me. Come on. Nope. Come on. Stupid thing. Sorry, guys. This thing is not working for me this evening. Come on. Give it to me. There we go. Maybe. Well, let's see if I can grab it and drag it down to where it won't do that. Here we go, guys. Let's try this again. a special edition, a song written just for Gunning for CPS. Guys, sit back and enjoy, and we'll be right back with our special guest, Jessica Saxton. But Blount County, Tennessee, and Gunning for CPS, this song is for you. Welcome to The Reckoning.
He calls it the reckoning. Blount County started it. Blount County started it. Kentucky doubled down. Gunner and Sharon are finishing it. Shadows where the black bears roam. They kicked in Gunner's door trying to steal his home. No war and no crime, just badges and a grin. But they forgot one thing, mountain men don't bend. He looked them in the eyes and said, you just signed your fate. You touched my blood, now feel the reckoning's weight.
In the Smokies roar.
In Kentucky weep.
Hey, this is the reckoning. Gunner Evers calls it down.
Blount County burning to the ground. Kentucky CPS on their knees tonight. Retaliation thieves gonna lose this fight.
The reckoning is here.
Wake up, America. Draw me for every stolen child, for every mother's tear. The reckoning is here. Stood like stone when Kentucky crossed the line. Took her babies for revenge, thought they'd break her spine. But every tear she cried turned into molten steel.
Molten steel.
Forged a blade called justice that no court can conceal. From Maryville to Frankfort, the corrupt began to run. They woke the sleeping giant and the reckoning begun. Now 1 million parents marched with torches in their hands, from the hollers to the cities across these stolen lands. Gunner's voice on the podcast was the battle horn blast. Every episode another nail in the empire's casket. He named the day, he named the hour, he named the final stand. He called it the reckoning. Now it's sweeping the land. This is not politics.
This is not left wing.
This is not left or right.
It's not left or right.
This is the line in the dirt where parents say, not one more child tonight.
Gunner Evers drew it.
Sharon Evers holds it.
America crosses it together.
When the last courthouse falls and the last black robe burns, when the last caseworker flees and the last stolen child returns, we'll raise a monument on the ashes of their throne, carved in Tennessee granite with these words alone. Here died tyranny at the hands of a dad and mom. The reckoning came, 2020 seats the storm.
This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers pull it loud. Blount County in ruins. Kentucky in a shroud. CPS is finished. Hear the death knell ring. Every stolen child coming home on angel wings.
The reckoning is here. America, no more fear. Gunner,
Sharon,
your name's forever. The reckoning is now, and it's eternal.
the reckoning. Hey, hey, the reckoning. The reckoning.
Mommy and Daddy are
Okay, guys, there you are. There is the premiere of our song for Gunning for CPS, The Reckoning. Hope you guys like that, specifically geared towards Blount County. Little quick backstory here is a lot of people don't seem to understand that just because there's a lot of movements and a lot of things going on within the CPS world, and people waking up, and many people with different aspects of attacking CPS, that's not always the case. With the way my next guest and I line up is we're actually, and a lot of people don't understand this, that I've said this to, is our special guest Jessica Saxton. Actually, her case originates in Blount County, Tennessee, the same place of the birth of the reckoning. Guys, welcome Jessica.
Hi guys, how are you?
So
Scott, I've got to say,
go ahead.
just a disclaimer. I don't advocate for any type of violence. There's a lot of things in those songs, and I just want to put that on the record really fast. That says that I do not advocate for any type of violence against any type of anyone at all. So, just gonna put that out there.
All good. Once again, this is why the beauty of our country, altogether, and within our Constitution, there, that even from the founding of our country, it only took 3% of the American population to stand up against Great Britain for the tyranny that was happening then. And we've covered on previous shows, the Declaration of Independence. And I think a lot of people really need to go back and read that document, because it talks about the grievances of Great Britain. And we're seeing these same things, just to catch up on this. And you guys can check that out in a previous show. But it shows the connection of CPS doing, and these court systems, these family court systems, doing the same thing that King George was doing.
Yeah.
And this is what set us off to say we're not going to tolerate it no more.
Right.
Now, you and I have got a couple. Now, I believe you've got one magistrate and 3 judges that you've been dealing with, for a total of 4, according to one of your videos, or was it 2 magistrates, 2 judges?
No. So it was just 1 magistrate and 1 judge out of Blount County,
Okay.
Judge out of McMinn County, Tennessee. But out of Blount County, it's just 1 judge, 1 magistrate.
So we had the same magistrate and judge actually then.
Yep, we do.
Jason Bedingfield and Tammy Harrington. Now, I haven't said a lot of name dropping or anything else, but here's the thing. My paperwork's in. I can directly accuse you of it. And here's the thing. I have put the evidence on the state record. It's also on the federal lawsuit against not just the actors, which is so different from our lawsuit from anybody else's that a lot of people don't understand, is we went after the state itself under its policies and procedures, and the actors just following those policies and procedures. It's a different way of suing somebody, and as you guys, I know with some of the things you do across the country, you have to kind of adapt it too, as you go along, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's asymmetrical. It's not typical. A lot of people want to walk into court and they don't think that they have a way out, or they think that they have to play with only what they know. And the thing is that there's so much more that we don't know because we haven't been taught. And so once you start looking into constitutional law, the supreme law of the land, then you start finding some loopholes that they've been operating under and not being held accountable for. But we also have the power, and people don't realize that power has been stripped from us through years, decades after decades of, I'm sure we're going to talk about the Board of Education, but that's one way. It starts when we're young. Yeah. We have no idea. Most people graduate from high school. They have no idea what their Bill of Rights are. They don't know the difference between the Bill of Rights and, a bill that's coming in from the freaking, electric company. They have no clue. And so there's a lot of education that is taking place right now. And it's interesting because the system itself has gone so corrupt, and it's been this way for so long that they ended up forcing people into learning their right, educating themselves, empowering themselves.
Well, that would be one of the things that they actually, and you hear this a lot in public school, because as we were growing up, we'll say, that homeschoolers, especially, were the weird ones. But come to
Right.
find out, they're the most educated ones on constitutional rights.
Yeah.
More
And
than
we're
public.
and we're still not that educated. I mean, I was homeschooled from
No.
8th grade until I graduated. Constitution was used in our household like the second word to the Bible, but I still did it. I mean, I knew the basics. I knew the first, the second, the fifth,
Right.
and the 15th, and that was it. You know, and I didn't know how to use them aside from I plead the fifth. I'm not going to self-incriminate. That was it. But I didn't know that there were the other 4 clauses in the Fifth
Well,
Amendment.
I here's the thing is a lot of people see, I'm a transplant from Tennessee. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area. So
Okay.
you talk about mass corruption, where some of the CPS and family court corruption and everything else originated. Even if you go back to the history of the origin of the family court, actually started in New York City.
Yeah.
Was the first family court. And the amount of corruption that is in there and the things and some of the history. Now, I could go into that with some people, and some people don't understand it. They don't like the history of it, but oh, that's too much. But it all goes into, that's one thing that we have got to take. And I think as far as education is teaching our children, the most important thing of teaching proper history as to not repeat the history again.
Right.
Because a lot of what we're seeing within the family courts, and especially through CPS, are the same things that we were accusing Nazi Germany of.
Oh, 100%. When we were at the Holocaust Museum a few weeks back, I was walking through, and the way that they start that museum in DC, it starts out with how did it all start? Yep. Here was Germany operating, perfectly fine, and now all of a sudden, so it kind of walks you through the timeline up until they start the genocide. And as I was walking through the Holocaust Museum, I was sitting there thinking, this is happening in America. They're depriving people of their rights. Now they're taking their property. Now they're starting to turn, the party lines, how they're indoctrinating children. I mean, it's well known that Hitler said, if you give me a child up until 6, you have them for life. So we have our own system that's just taking our children, especially our young children. I mean, there's statistics out there that are showing that the younger the better, and there's a reason. But yeah, the Nazi Germany museum.
It's cultural genocide is what it is you're erasing the family's history. There's stories of the ones come before, the aunts, the uncles, the destruction of the family. We're seeing, and with this, it's very similar to China's social credit system with this mandatory report of calling in and not being held accountable. That is because here's the one thing. If a crime's truly happened with something like CPS, you're not meant to be in civil court whatsoever. It's a criminal, and they're actually taking civil courts and say, well, we can put criminal charges on people, which is what they're doing to destroy families and rip these kids away into foster care. And these are the same judges that are doing the divorces, the same judges that are doing child support and some of these other things. Like child support was supposed to be worked out as part of your divorce decree, and that child support enforcement under the Title IV was for those that wouldn't comply. In other words, they didn't do the calculations. You worked it out between ex-husband, ex-wife. Hey, what do you need? I'll make sure that you have it, and we'll take care of it. And when they didn't pay it or broke the contract, and a lot of people don't understand this in divorce cases, is that you can work out that as well as your child support and everything else, and it's a contract because it's written in the final order. And when the judge signs it, the judge is actually signing it off the way, if you use the divorce court the way it's supposed to be, that you have an agreement. So if you breach that agreement, then you go into child support is the way it's supposed to be done. But we're seeing a lot of now they've found a way to profit from it, but then they've jumped all these kids into it. To where I've even seen, Jessica, because your case was based off of divorce, not a CPS case, correct?
It started
before these judges.
It started as a divorce, and then my ex pulled a silver bullet, and he called CPS on me. And then once we went into forensic investigation, that's when some allegations came out. And I'm not going to talk too much about that, but it started as a divorce. And then the silver bullet was called on me. And there were some more investigations that happened. The sheriff's department refused to release the forensic interview. That would explain everything. That was the evidence. And Judge Harrington had an evidentiary hearing without the evidence, which I kept saying, you can't do that. That's not a lawful order. Whatever findings you have, you can't find evidence that's not here when it's sitting in a sheriff's department down in Athens, Tennessee. And so, but they continued and they ignored it. And the guardian ad litem, sided with the state like they usually do. And they removed both of my kids. So there's that. Nope. We lost him. Hey guys, well, it's just you and me now, I guess. I don't know what happened. Anyway, everybody on Facebook.
Sorry about that.
There he is. Okay.
I got locked up every once in a while because we start speaking about certain topics, this and that. We are actively being targeted or bombarded, even some of our shows where it'll jack up and freeze up the screen and we have to reload. It does this a lot on the thing. We've reached out to the IT people, but when we get on certain subjects or we get somewhere, all of a sudden it just wants to, let me freeze you up. Apologize about that, guys. Technical difficulties.
Talk about that for a second. Some people think that they're crazy when that stuff happens, but they're not. I mean, I talked with someone from Blount County, Tennessee. I tried to call him 6 times yesterday. I could call anybody else in the United States, but for some reason, that one person in Blount County, every time I called, we just kept dropping. So
yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize the local sheriff's department of some of the stuff that they have through there, let alone if they, because right now I don't think a lot of people understand that the FBI is in town in Blount County, Tennessee for mass investigations right now.
Can you what you're hearing? Because I'm hearing some things too.
Well, I mean, there's the judges. There's one with a lot of the judges in corruption because, it wasn't that long ago that we had a judge removed that was for hiding child pornography and destroying some of the evidence in a federal case.
And that was Judge LaSchmidt, right?
Yeah. And
okay. There's a little
there was that happened, but then more recently, like I said, my reports have gone in. And a lot of people don't understand when you file certain things, like when we did a lot of things to the appeal and this and that, and you have certain target words in there, it doesn't go to the council. Mine actually went directly to the Attorney General's office to review because of the mass, the crimes that were listed in there and articulated within it of saying due process was not followed. They framed somebody. This was RICO all day. And the thing is we've got all the evidence of it started. And the reason it started out in my case is I called out the CPS worker for coming into my home when I wasn't here, that I'm the sole owner of the house. Nobody else's name is on this house, but mine. Was never notified anything else. It comes walking through my house. Never even asked permission to do. Like I said, when my wife was home, she turned her back to deal with the kids and he just walks in.
Wow.
But here's the thing. It says they can do this shit in their handbook.
Right.
It's in the handbook. It says we can enter your home and talk to your children. And it literally says there's nothing you can do about it right in the book. We've got the printed version. We've got anything. This is their policies and procedures.
Right.
So you've got these judges like Harrington and the others, they're going to adjudicate to protect that system because why? Because they take out bonds, don't they, Jessica?
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
They make money off this.
Yeah, I have 2 cost bonds on my case.
Yeah.
And my attorney filed his cost bond. It was a lesser value than when my ex's attorney filed his cost bond. And so once I started looking into the bonds that they're filing on these cases, that's when I was like, I'm going to lose, because they had already bid based on the cost bond, and it was right there on paper in black and white. One was $500.
Yeah, they make the decision before hearing the case with the bonds.
Yep.
It's already predetermined, and this is the family court systems that are happening across the country that we're telling people. Is I know you're going across and notifying people and putting them on notice of. These are the things, that's coming. And I guess in a way, they say it's coming, but I don't think a lot of them realize in a lot of states yet that the tip of that spear is right here with the reckoning with a federal case that comes through, because not only did CPS do that, they crossed state lines into Kentucky.
Yeah. Same in
And
my
when they did that, and I know they did with your case, that opens up all 50 states. If you can do it with one,
right.
you now opened up all 50 states. Now, I think so. Just for clarity too, for our people, of how this works, or how the how case law is established, so on and so forth, in federal cases. So if you take we take our case to court, we are in a certain district, okay, which includes Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. So if a case is one that establishes case law, then they must follow that case law in that district, okay? But if they appeal it, which we know they're going to do, and then the appeals court either says, no, this is where you get the SCOTUS with this stuff. This is where the appellate, they can apply to say, hey, we want this to go to SCOTUS, the highest court in the land, to make this decision. But the same thing happens, because you either get the appeal or you get the SCOTUS. You get one or the other, because one's done on paper, on merit. The other one's done in person. Hey, we have further arguments that we just weren't prepared for that day, but we need to take and argue this case law, or argue this case. But once again, we're going into a 1983 constitutional thing. And a lot of people don't understand this is and the judge we drew was appointed by Trump very first term for constitutionality. So when we say this has got some real teeth, and like everything's been lining up for us because of, the creator, the way that he does, is the creator has come in and positioned this at its right time. But if they appeal that or go to SCOTUS, it then becomes national case law. Very well established.
I think we have to be very careful, though, relying too much on case law, because then
I agree with you. I agree with you.
So,
but the one thing I don't think that they understand, what a lot of people don't understand with what we're doing with this, is getting into the courtroom. Is I'm not a lawyer. I'm pro se.
Right. Yeah,
so I don't think people understand the powers, though, Jessica, of a pro se sui juris litigant versus a lawyer being represented.
No, they don't. They don't. And once people start understanding, that's what some of the stuff that we touch on, like on our Zooms, and some of the things that we're teaching on, is that moment that you go and you hire an attorney, you're literally professing yourself to be of an infant's mind, that you are unable to speak for yourself. So you go and you hire an attorney, and now that judge is looking at you as if you are capable of representing yourself. That's why you hired an attorney. Now, the judges, because the pro se movement is so strong right now, sui juris movement, it is so strong right now. And that's because the system has created that, because they've deprived us, they've taken everything from us, whether that's through child support, just straight theft. I mean, they literally stole $55,000 that should be mine. I should have that possession right now, and they just stole it. And more. They stole more than that, but $55,000 in cash. But they steal the money, they steal the property from people, and then they can't afford to pay for an attorney. So now it's forcing them to go and learn and do. And now these people, they're coming up like a freaking just a lion in these courtrooms. And they're like, you know what? I have a constitution, and so do you. I am a person, I'm a citizen of the United States, and you swore an oath to defend and support the Constitution, and you're not doing it. So therefore, you have violated your oath of office. That means that you have literally perjured yourself.
Yeah.
Not just outside of court, but in open court. And people are starting
Bedingfield. I had Bedingfield say the most thing when I brought up constitutional stuff during, our family court under him being a magistrate. He literally stopped because I was going on about it on the stand, literally from the bench, turned around and says, we don't deal with constitutional issues in this courtroom, and it's on the record.
Do you have a recording of that?
It's on the court record, and they've still got it retained.
So you can go and get that. And I'm trying to find, there's a federal law that another mom who was in foster's court. Okay. So she extracted all of this information, and she got the records from Kinlan Foster, and all of the court recordings. And so there's a law somewhere that talks about that they have to release that information. And if they don't, then they don't have it. And so
Yeah.
you can kind of
Tampering with
pin them.
evidence. Yeah.
You can pin them because you're like,
Yeah.
you have to maintain this record, and either you produce it, or if you don't, then I'm going to assume you don't have it. So therefore, you're still breaking the law. Either way, you lose. But if you go get that record,
yeah, there's stuff. It was set back because it was subpoenaed under the other. So, like I said, it's some of those things that we have. You know, there was access to them; they were sent over. But yeah, maintaining that. But the amount of crimes that come through that, and understanding because they've crossed state lines, as this thing picks up, it automatically triggers FBI because it's multi-state. Yeah, it's multi-state.
Yeah, I have 4 different states. So they came into Alabama and took my son without an FBI, you know, and anybody representing the federal government. So that was the first state. Then they crossed over into Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Missouri. Mm-hmm. And so what I ended up doing was I did FOIA requests from all of the other states asking if they had received any type of an order from the Attorney General, because there's 2 ways. The way that I understand it is there's 2 ways that they would be able to lawfully do that. And that is if they had an order that went to the Attorney General in each state.
Yeah. Yep.
And then they approved it, and then they sent their law enforcement in, their state law enforcement in to go and retrieve the child. Or if they had an FBI agent. And in my case, they had neither.
Yeah.
So
same thing that we had here. They just basically called up to Kentucky, where Sharon was at, visiting her parents. Here's the other thing: she doesn't even have residency there for them to even deal with this stuff. They just went right over the first thing. Well, do we have jurisdiction over this? Is she a resident here? No. She was there visiting her parents. When they visited her the first time at her parents' house, her dad wasn't even in the state, and they tried to break into it. This guy's a 39-year Army veteran. CPS tried to break into this man's house while he wasn't there, and she was house sitting, visiting with her parents. Because, you know, with her homeschool program, she traveled all the time, so there was no home base. But what's the law? The first thing the judge should have asked, let me see your license, and is your vehicle registered? Where's it registered? It's still registered in Blount County, Tennessee. You don't have jurisdiction. So now we're going to deal with jurisdiction. Why? Because the law is with CPS, you have to reside in that state for so many days before they can even get involved.
Right.
If not, there ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
So the jurisdiction in my case is really interesting because I was a stay-at-home mom before I asked for the divorce. And then my ex left me with nothing and the kids and the daycare costs and all this stuff. So I ended up moving down to Alabama because of a job. And I was there for more than 6 months before we had our very first hearing, along with the children. Now, my ex and I, we still had, it was like a 45-55 split. I mean, he still got to see the kids. I was never wanting to, remove them away from him at the time. There were no allegations of abuse regarding the children. Nonetheless, I tried to request for a relocation hearing before Judge Harrington, and she postponed it for months and months and months. Technically, I established residency in Alabama, and that should have moved the case. Now, in the last hearing, what she said was, I told you that you would always come back to before me. I told you that you would never be able to move outside of this court, and your hearings would always come back to me. And I'm sitting there, I didn't know what that meant, but I'm sitting there thinking, what's the catch?
Original jurisdiction. I mean, that would apply to CPS cases, but when it comes back to divorce and some of the other things that are there can be a move of jurisdiction for inconvenience, or we have modern technology now with platforms like this to where you can zoom in. Hey, I'm no longer in the state. I don't reside there. But for CPS to get involved, your court doesn't have power. In other words, your judge can't issue an order for a CPS in another state to do without going through, like you said before, the Attorney General of the state to get permission to cross state lines, because they're a state entity. And the same thing happens with your driver's license or anything else. If you've broken the law, and here's the issue, you have to break the law for that to happen. And I think a lot of people misconstrue because we've heard the term, well, you've broken a Tennessee law. And there's no such thing as a Tennessee law. It's why? Because it's TCA, Tennessee Code Annotated. If you look under Black's Law Dictionary, a code is not a law. The only people that have the power to put laws in this land is through Congress, and that's through our Constitution.
That is so interesting that you brought that up. I never thought about it. I wonder what other states use that type of language. I mean, they use statutes.
All the time, statutes and codes, they'll go through this and that, but you will hear a lot of law enforcement. It just surfing on TikTok or Facebook or any of the others, you'll watch them, well, you've broken state law. Yeah. There's no such thing as a state law. We have one law, and it's the law of the land. The thing is your statutes and codes, as well as your policies and procedures for the government or people that subcontract for the government, are specifically required to make sure that your policies, procedures, and all those other things before are constitutionally sound. You can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the state gives away the rights of every parent in this, not just Blount County, but in Tennessee, and it's literally in their handbooks to say our caseworkers can come into your house and there's no mention of a warrant, no mention of this, let alone question people on private property. There's two cases right there that are established case law. Fourth Amendment. Let me tell you something, guys. Fourth Amendment case law stacks to the ceiling. You're not getting around that castle thing. White versus Pierce County, specifically dealing with a CPS worker, says you must have a warrant. And here's the other thing. Like Tammy Harrington and the others that go through there, or Bedingfield, most people in a lot of states will categorize them differently, but they're considered like a Article 4 judge, which is just family court and so on and so forth, a lot of the others. Did you know a family court judge doesn't have the power to issue a warrant?
No, I didn't know that. Maybe that's why I haven't been arrested yet.
Because you cannot, they can hold you, they can do a contempt and this, that, but when they do contempt under SEC versus Jarsky, you got to have a jury.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're not doing administratively. Now you're doing judiciary. And if you're doing judiciary, you have a right to a jury. There's the other thing that both of them didn't give me was a jury. And then they tried to slap a criminal code in a civil case with no jury on top of that.
Yeah.
So when I say Tammy Harrington and Jason Bedingfield have violated their oath, they have grossly violated their oath, including with one of the other things we filed is violating the rules of evidence under 24-7-123 under the Tennessee, the TCA code that tells them. Now that people don't understand, these judges have to follow these codes that are within the state saying, here's our rules, and keep their oath to the Constitution, which this is now a huge conflict because the beautiful thing is, especially with coming into my house, these idiots are so stupid with these caseworkers. They document the fact that they've broken into your house with no warrant. When we got here in their report, and they do it right in their reports, nothing about a warrant. Because a warrant has to come from an Article 3 judge by federal law.
Right.
Article 3 or an Article 1 judge that has specially been given specific instructions by Congress. So see, there's a lot of things that these family court judges are doing. They are way out of their ball field and they don't have the power to do it, but they're doing it. And the sheriffs, now let's talk about the sheriffs of Blount County and law enforcement. What's your opinion on this?
I think that they are all so criminally entangled at this point that there's no way that they're going to get out of this without having some type of criminal indictment. I mean, we already have one. Liz Schmidt's she's criminally indicted, and I think that we're going to start seeing that happen across the board because they've ran they've ran such a criminal enterprise for so long. And since I started, really going public about this and just gaining a lot of attention, especially in Blount County and East Tennessee alone, I mean, I got 3 calls yesterday from people in Blount County, one of which had Judge Tammy Harrington. And it was just another just atrocious case of her depriving these parents of their rights. There are families that have had their children separated. One parent keep one child, one parent keep the other. I remember Judge Harrington back in 2023, she brought us into her chambers. And she was sitting there and she said, and she was acting all big and bad and whatever. And at the time I was completely scared. I mean, I haven't been representing myself until the first of this year. That's when I, figured out what the heck was going on. I said, I'm going to do this. And nonetheless, so she brought us back in and she was sitting there and she said, in 11 years, I have never considered separating siblings, but this might be the one case where I'm going to separate your children. Well, she didn't know at the time where we were going to be 2 years later. And here we are with 51,000 followers on Facebook and get ready to walk back into her court with 50 people, sitting in the pew behind me. And many of those families have had their children separated, have had siblings separated. And I can't imagine, I'm thinking, Judge Harrington, how do you sleep at night knowing that you have completely destroyed these families' lives to the extreme where you're going to separate the siblings, leave a son with a mother and a father, and put the daughter into foster care, right?
Yeah.
And cause traumatic injury that's going to last literally for an entire lifetime. I mean, she has done this time and time again. This is so much bigger than just our two cases.
Exactly. And let me point out why this is so important. Because when Tammy Harrington does that and separates families like that, she's actually breaking the law again. This is what we call, if you guys wonder where this Title IV money is, she said she put one in foster care. When she did that, she violated the purpose, Section 401 of the Social Security Act of 1935. Go look it up under purpose. And the whole thing of purpose is to keep families together at any expense as much as you can. Not put them in foster care is supposed to be the temporary or it's that particular thing to where they make more money, they found out, off of these foster kids, and then getting them into adoption, they get a bonus for that. But then they didn't look at kids as kids, they looked them as product, which is why it got completely out of control.
Right.
The way it did. But under purpose, even under there, it even says for single mothers to push them towards marriage.
Right. So
now how can you justify when she's adjudicating and outside the purpose, knowing that they're going to get the federal money for it, that to even get the federal money, it has to meet the standard of the purpose. Destroying families is a very violation of the Social Security Act, which means it's fraud. Right. Defrauding the Social Security Fund, Title IV. You're defrauding them by not keeping with the purpose of Section 4. Yeah. That everybody goes, well, and there's the thing you talked about earlier with education, because people don't know where to look to point that out, because they didn't want independent thinkers in public education, and let alone what's been going on here in Blount County with the amount of teachers and staff and of inappropriate touching and sexual conduct and this, and let alone just north of us in Knoxville and in Knox County, the things that are coming out of there, or public officials, or even this or that that's going on. It's like you are putting your kids at bigger risk for letting them outside the home. This is why there's been a huge influx of homeschoolers of saying, I'm putting my child at risk, but a lot of people say, well, I can't afford it. So there you get to the point that they are targeting low-income families. Now,
100%.
Jessica, you've listened to it. I've confirmed it, everything in there. Jessica, what is the percentage of kids in public schools that are in foster care in Blount County, Tennessee?
It's 50%. And that was confirmed by the Board of Education in Blount County. I have a video. I found the video where a mother went to approach the Board of Education and she repeated their numbers on the record. And I'll send that to you. We can release it. So she got up and she said, Mr. Board of Education, member, whatever they call You said a few months back that there were 50% of the public school children in foster care in Blount County. When I heard that number, I about fell out, because that is not,
Yeah.
that's not,
That's way above the national standard.
well, it's
Way above the national
standard, but
standard.
when you look at it, you're like, that's an impossible number. Statistically speaking, that is an impossible number unless you have an organization that is targeting children and families for nothing more than Title 4D trafficking and trying to get funding back to that county. And I mean, the
Or
things that
a natural disaster, or an outbreak that would cause mass deaths. That would include it there, but we've had neither.
exactly. And the cases that I have uncovered, and I'm talking about the tip of the iceberg information, the orders, the final orders, temporary orders, arrest warrants, that's it. I don't have to get into the weeds about, who said what. I don't have to even, all I have to do is look at the tip of the iceberg information on many of these cases that come out of Blount County, and I can look at it within 5 minutes and say, they trafficked these children. They literally
100%.
targeted this mom because she was poor. They targeted this dad because they didn't have the money to pay an attorney that they liked. And they traffic their children. They put them into foster care, and it's the same thing. They put them into foster care, or they send them to another parent, and then they start depriving the parents that can't afford to pay child support. Just like in my case, I'm supposed to pay $500 in child support every single month to a man who makes over $140,000 a year, and has everything, and already took everything from me. I'm not paying it. I mean, have they lost their minds? Can we talk about really fast? Can we go back to the Fourth Amendment?
Sure.
And I want to talk about the psychological evaluations, and especially in Blount County, like we're starting to see in a pattern. I have collected enough evidence of cases, and when I say evidence, I mean evidence that is on the record in their court already. So we've extracted enough information to know that they have a circle of people that they play with. One is called volunteer services. Is that right? Shoot, I'll have to go look it up. I believe it's volunteer services, but this is an attorney that provides reunification therapy, mediation. He's a divorce attorney, but the dude also has a wedding venue, and he owns all of this. And so I've been contacted by whistleblowers ever since we started going public and stuff, and people from within Blount County. Now, there's an individual that works in Blount County courthouses. I'm going to say this so they can't really pinpoint it. They literally walk in and they smile at this person every day, and this person smiles back. Okay. And we have this whistleblower that is literally giving us information from within about how criminal and corrupt they are. And it's phenomenal that we have that, because a lot of people don't have that in their cases. And that's why I encourage people to go public with your stuff, go talk to people, so that the good people that are left within, still working in those rings.
Well, and they isolate a lot of parents and everything around here because you're so mentally wore out, especially a lot of the women, that they're beat down. You're a bad mother, you're a bad person, you're this or that. And they yank the kids from them. And there's a psychological aspect of this that goes on with that, as well as it does for the kids, so on and so forth. But when you get into some of the other thing on the flip side of the coin, the recent things that have been declassified, like MK Ultra, which are psyops. And if you've gone in, and not a lot of people took and watched those, but I went in and dug deep into it, because there was, separating the myth between the actual facts that was being released. And a lot of people don't realize that CPS is taking caseworkers and using psyops and everything else on, I think it's from darkness into light, these type of videos of these worst cases. In other words, if I tell you bad enough, Jessica, that the world's on fire, or that your roof's on fire, eventually you're going to keep looking and keep looking and keep looking, and you can get paranoia of this, that it could happen or something. Or, hey, if you don't do this, you'll let the snakes in. So you're checking for snakes every time, or something like that. Because did I leave the back door? Did it squeeze in? We have poisons, and people will look for snakes. And it's that conditioning of even the caseworkers. People say, well, CPI says a lot of that is conditioning. A lot of that is higher up. But the big money to be made is in the courtroom. And for the county.
It's happening to the judges too. I mean, and that that is why, to some degree, I do have some empathy on these judges, even though, according to their oath, if they're going to take that position, they need to know what the hell they're doing. And they need to know that they have to know that they're actually breaking the law. But if you think about it from a mind control perspective, which we all know has happened time and time again in America, and I think we're seeing this now, these judges have been controlled into doing what they're doing. They've been taught. When you look at the family, is that FFCA or there's a conference that these judges go to, and when you look at it, they literally train the judges on how to protect CPS and how to protect guardian ad litems and
absolutely.
how to move these children.
And it's not just the judges; it's also law enforcement. We found classes where they were teaching them how to violate Fourth Amendment right in actually some of the CPS documents we collected from across the country, to where they went to a conference and they told them specifically to take a class on how to deal with difficult parents or individuals to gain entry into a home. That's called coercion of the Fourth Amendment, and to do so is a treasonous act. Right. The fact that they're doing that. But when you take and report these crimes of these state workers or judges or anything else, your sheriff, your duly elected constitutional sheriff's requirement, the point of him being elected into where he's violated his oath, is they have done nothing but bury the investigation, especially in my case, as well as the Blount County District Attorney's Office, because I brought it to both of them. I even involved a state representative, and I've still got the emails where they were contacted back and forth and then say, here, I'll pass you off. And when I was passed off, we were blown off. And the evidence buried of now crimes that are both on the federal record, as well as, law enforcement way above them, everything else. It's over with, folks, for Blount County. Let me tell you something. It's coming crumbling.
I think so too. And I think that this is, with my hearing next week, I appreciate everybody that's going to come out and just support, but I want to focus on the fact that this is not just about my case, that this is literally about everybody's cases. And I think that Judge Harrington, when we walk in and she sees the other 5 families that she destroyed, I think she's going to know that she really messed up.
And this isn't, I'm sure she's going to hear about our little broadcast, and she's going to recognize both of us too, and then go, oh crap, why? Because that man right there has got me all twisted up. To be honest, there was I wouldn't be surprised if she recused herself before you even went forward with anything, because the heat's coming down on, let me tell you something, Bedingfield quit and altogether and stepped down.
Position too. Did you know that? Either he quit or he got. So after he stepped down from the magistrate position in juvenile court, he went to work with another law or another attorney's office.
Another firm, yeah.
Yeah, the last I heard, he's not there anymore. That didn't last very long.
Well, that's you're welcome. Hi, that's me. Yeah. I really don't care. Yeah. See, here's the thing. You destroy these judges, especially these family court judges. You are on such a trip. The concept is, like I said, the best family court judge I ever heard of. And this is actually, I looked at the record and everything else, basically looked at him and said, listen, here's the rules. Everything you have before the marriage is yours. Anything in between or the time you were married is 50-50. Balance the books, balance the debt, balance the income, this, and that. Work out something to benefit to you both can get on your feet for some child support, even if it's temporary. But the idea is 50-50 custody. Let's be equal, this, and that. And if you can't, then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you out. I'm going to give her the car, but I'm going to give him the engine. Oh, you don't like that, do you? Then be adults. If you're willing to dissolve it and you're willing to do it, then do it according to the state. And as an administrative law judge, that's all you're supposed to do in the first place.
Right.
Nothing else.
Well, that's all that it ever should be. It literally should just be, you're splitting everything 50-50. And it was, anyway, there's a lot going on. Going back to the sheriff. So Sheriff Blount, I think that's how you say his name. He's been there for a very long time. I think it's from 1988. Yes. And now he's stepping down. And I don't think that he's stepping down because, obviously he's old, but he also started in that position very young. So he's been there for a very, very long time, but I think he's stepping down because of this pressure. Another thing that's very telling that I found out was that his daughter and son-in-law are getting a divorce. That was public information. And his son ended up moving out of state. I mean, I'm sorry, the son-in-law. The son-in-law ended up moving out of state. And I haven't been able to talk with him, but I was able to confirm that he's not in Tennessee anymore. So that says a lot as well. And then when we have, like you and I, we've both had, we've both had former law enforcement officers that have been fired and come and talk to us, and they were fired because they were doing the right thing. And not only were they fired, they were then retaliated against. I mean, just completely demolished by Blount County. There's a video somewhere. I need to find it. I talked with this woman months ago before I knew what I was commissioned to do. And when I say commissioned, I was literally commissioned by God to go and do this. But before I knew this, I had this video of this woman in Blount County Jail, and she was being brutally beaten. And I cannot find her anymore. I don't know if that video still exists, but I've been trying to get up with that or get in touch with that woman. So if she's listening or anybody knows who I'm talking about, please get her in touch with me and send her to me, because that's the type of video that needs to go public now about Blount County, Tennessee. And I think what we're going to start seeing, especially, Gunnar, you've done an amazing job at, staying the course, not stepping out of line as far as threatening judges, even though I question some of the lyrics in these songs. That's why I had to have a disclaimer. I'm like, I am not.
Well, now, Jessica, let me explain this. And this is why.
Okay.
Because yes, there is an infinite definition between men and women. One, and I truly believe this too, men are extremely more violent. Yes, they can be more violent, but we have to be for certain situations. If you want to live in peace, you got to be prepared to go to war. And it's not always about the courts, because even our own Constitution says if tyranny gets so bad, which is why the Second Amendment was so important in our Constitution, that if it got that bad, it means we had to shed blood if that's what it takes for our freedom. And I don't think a lot of people understand when these state workers like CPS and everything else, now we don't advocate for violence, obviously. I'll be honest with you, and the choice is yours. But when somebody breaks into your house, the law is very clear. If they do not have a warrant in hand, their immunity, and it doesn't matter what their job title is, anything else, they are breaking in. It's breaking and entering, and it's under your castle doctrine. You have a right to defend your home. But this is why CPS has now started coming with law enforcement, because they know the stuff that they're doing by coming in these houses, that at any given time they come in there, they could turn around and be shot, and it would be 100% constitutionally legal. Why? Because the case law's there, the Constitution's there. Show me the warrant. This person was in my home, now they're dead, saying they want to get at my children or come at my children. And you know what? I used my Second Amendment. They were a threat to me and my family. I was in fear for the safety of my children and everything else within my castle. The Constitution is very clear, but they don't want to teach you that, because, that puts law enforcement and state workers in a thing, because they're breaking the Constitution. Right. And maybe if there was some bloodshed, that parents did have enough to it, not say what it is, I guarantee you that'd be on the front page. People start shooting CPS caseworkers breaking into their homes. Once again, those are your choices. But once again, these are people that are coming into your home to steal. You have a right to defend yourself. Now, I don't expect, there are some people, and I respect that. I don't believe in that. That's not my particular thing of this and that. But there's others, and thank God there's others, that are willing to stand and take up arms against tyranny, whether or attack our country, such as what our military does for all of us to live free and feel safe. It's done with weapons. You can like them, you cannot like them, but you sit here, you and I both sit here, as well as our audience sits in your homes, because of the United States military and those that serve this country to protect those freedoms, for us to act like idiots. But when people like that, they come breaking in your home, sheriff's office or not, a badge or this or that, and I know there's been some shootings and everything else. And listen, we're not advocating that, but there's a line, a constitutional line that should never, ever, ever, ever be crossed. And for people to serve in government, they need to understand the Constitution, and the amount of them that don't, let alone judges.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing, is the opposite happen, where the gun violence is happening from within the law enforcement. I mean, there was a case a while back right in Blount County where the sheriff's department literally opened fire on this family. Oh, in a nice neighborhood. And this guy did nothing. And I'm like, why are those people, why do they still have their job? Why are they still walking? Why are they not, criminally indicted for murder? They murdered that man. And these people don't care. But that's what we're dealing with, this criminal enterprise. And I think what people are going to see, everybody's like, well, if I support this person, I had a text message the other day. I said, if I spend my resources supporting someone else, how is that going to help me? And I'm like, because we are all working together nationwide, even though on Tuesday I'm going to speak, in my case, in my hearing, but literally I'm going to speak on behalf of everybody. And once we start seeing these judges removed from office in the manner that we are doing it, which is legal, lawful, it's peaceful, we're using the law, we're using their law. That's it. We're using our laws. Duralex said, the law is hard, but it is the law. And unfortunately, Judge Tammy Harrington, you've broken it. Not just once, not twice. We have 15 families behind here that are willing to testify before a federal grand jury for your federal grand jury indictment that you've broken the law. And
one of the other things too, I think that we need to get back to, and some people will agree or disagree, but when a judge doesn't uphold the Constitution, it's treason. And treason in this country.
Treason is very difficult to prove. I'm going to disagree with you, but I think it is.
The law is very clear, though, that if they violate their oath, such as due process or anything, in other words, they're abusing their authority, such as in this case, 100%, that is an act of treason. I mean, the law is very clear. When the judge abuses that and throws out the Constitution, which is what Tammy Harrington and Jason Benefield did in my case both times. Right. Evidence, tampering with evidence, all these other things are here. I mean, the charges go on. They're not. This is not a light offense, people. What I'm talking about here, we're talking about they did it blatantly. They've done it repeatedly. They have done this over and over and over again on a power trip because I'm judge, I'm God. Well, that is not the case, because once it comes in, even Bedingfield turned around and told me, we don't follow the Constitution in this courtroom, then this is not a legal, legitimate courtroom.
Yeah. Were you always representing yourself?
I actually had a good someone that I knew that represented me in my case. And matter of fact, he fought like hell. Matter of fact, one of the things that Harrington is in deep shit about, and I'll go into that just real clear. My attorney specifically asked whether or not, because they were entering a forensic interview, that the child was left alone for over 2 hours to coach, and then destroyed the video evidence at the Blount County, the New Hope Child Advocacy Center, which I have a letter from the former director of the New Hope Child Advocacy Center admitting to deleting evidence.
It's unbelievable.
With all this other stuff.
Their crimes, they're just so blatant about it. They don't even care about hiding.
Oh yeah, they didn't care. But then my attorney goes up towards the beginning of the thing, because we went from Bedingfield, of course, you did the appeal, then you went into Harrington, and my attorney goes up to and asks us judges, is the child in question or anything that we're going on with this stuff is going to be present to question, to question the child, to go through these things.
In Tennessee, you have to have that.
And here's the thing, you know what Harrington told him on the record in the beginning?
What?
If you wanted to question the child, you should have had the child on your witness list. Tammy Harrington, look at 24-7-123, this Tennessee code. To enter a forensic interview as evidence, the child must be present for what? Cross-examination. That means that the state has got to provide the child as one of their witnesses, where they don't testify about it. The forensic interview goes in as their testimony, but cross-examination is a requirement for that to get in. Her whole summation was all about the forensic interview, that nobody ever got to cross-examine. And that's in that case, but the same thing happened without that conversation, where my attorney actually pointed it out that they were supposed to have it there and didn't. None of that evidence or any of that other. And Jason Benefield did the same thing. Nobody was there. It was all one thing. And by the time it was done, it was like my attorney against like 6 or 7 other attorneys for the state. That's how bad they had, because I was screaming at the top of my lungs about constitutional rights violation. And it's this simple. And this is where Tennessee's going to get hung up. And you guys, and I've got them for over a decade. In their book, it specifically says we can enter your home and question your children, so on and so forth. The state can't give away your rights. Well, that book was dated all the way back to 2016. That means you've been doing it for over a decade. Now, under the law, when a felony has happened or a constitutional rights violation has happened, and you notify the court that that has happened by anybody, law enforcement, it doesn't matter. There's a doctrine called fruit from a poisonous tree. Case should have been dismissed from the beginning, and I was screaming it from the very beginning. And when they knew I wouldn't shut up, it would expose everything. We got to frame this dude. Otherwise, he's going to expose everything we're doing here.
Right.
Until we found where they screwed up in the courtroom, where they got super sloppy. All over that Fourth Amendment violation, because the state can't give away your rights. They can't come in. Well, I have a court order. A court order is not a warrant. You have to have a warrant to come into a home. There's another thing that people don't understand. You can keep your kids in the home. Well, I got a court order to come get them. Yeah, but you ain't got a warrant to come into my home.
Right. Yep. I tried to argue the same thing down in Alabama when they showed up with a warrant, and it was a fraudulent warrant, and I knew that it was. Yeah. But and they printed it off. It didn't even have a stamp. I'm like, what is this? A freaking auto pen? Like, how are you going to even come in the house?
So let's go over that with a warrant. What are the things for a warrant to be legitimate? One, you have to have a attached sworn affidavit of truth, okay, that comes with it, that's saying this is the reason I need to come in. It's their thing, and what we're looking for, or what we're suspecting, and this is why we're giving evidence. There is enough probable cause. This is in the house. Okay. Number 2, it has to have the judge's signature on it. Wet ink. Wet ink. Not auto pen, not stamped, not any of that other stuff. That don't work. Yeah, Kentucky, you screwed up because you stamped. And everything else with everything else you had when you crossed. Oh, we've got so much on Kentucky. It's just disgusting. So we're going to watch Kentucky fall, and fall hard, as well as Tennessee. But stamped, but it also has to have the court clerk seal showing it's been filed, and a signature from the court clerk's office to be a legal and legitimate warrant. And it is not digital. It must be in paper, and hand you a copy.
Yeah.
How many people are kicking themselves from hearing that and going back and wait, I got to go back and look at that warrant or that court order, and go, the same thing goes for a court order, people. It has to be signed with wet ink by the judge, not a stamp, not an auto pen, not any of that other crap that's illegal. Stamped by the court clerk as it's been filed, received, and put on the record, and signed. When they say, well, I'll just fill it out tomorrow, you just broke the law. When you say, I'm going to go back in and amend something the next day, you broke the law. You can't do that. You can't adjust an affidavit that you used to get the first one to remove or do this and that. I've seen that so many times. I know you have too, where it's like the caseworker will come in with some bullshit thing, and then and literally it is bullshit because it stinks and it's a big pile. And you go in there and you look at it and then they this was amended. Well, where's the original? Right. Because the original is the one you use to get the court order or the warrant to remove the children. See, they're removing people's kids with warrants. If the kids don't leave the house, they can't come in the house. Go get a warrant, because your court order is not a warrant. And that's the other thing that law enforcement is not trained properly on. Well, I got an order from a judge. I don't give a crap. You get a warrant. Article 3, even if you cross this with this and that, that'll go to the court systems and I defend myself. You had a court order. You didn't have a warrant. You came in the house. That means if you catch me outside the house, why? Because the Fourth Amendment said I'm secure in what? Papers, persons, and things. Persons.
Persons is your mind. also. So all of these psychological evaluations that are being ordered, that's a complete deprivation of your rights pursuant to the Fourth Amendment. And so I've been ordered to have a psychological evaluation. I'm supposed to go to their psych eval and do all this stuff. And I'm just like, no, because I have a right to be secure in my person. And you have given me.
I want you to turn over. Well, let's go down that road too. That we get a lot of parents that'll get asked this too. Within this, give me their medical records. Do this. Well, if you're taking care of your kids and this, that, you know how you respond to that? I'm sorry, do you have a warrant for that? Because those papers are secured within my home and require a warrant under the Constitution. They don't know what to do. No. They'll look at you and they'll turn around because you've quoted it perfectly. Mm-hmm. Those are secured within my home and require a warrant. You cannot force me or coerce me to violate my constitutional rights. If you proceed, Your Honor, you've just violated your oath, and then I'm going to ask for a dismissal based on abuse of power.
Right.
Because you're not even an Article III judge to demand any of those things, are you?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people miss that. And they just either they don't know or they forget it. So going back to CPS coming into the homes, I think one of the biggest things that we have to focus on now as a collective is educating other people that it doesn't matter if your house is in perfect order. I mean, when I get on TikTok, looking at some of these videos of people that are denying CPS to come into their home, and you'll see the comments and they're like, well, if you don't have anything to hide, you should just let them in. And I'm always responding back like, that's like inviting the Gestapo to come into your home.
Called gaslighting, ladies and gentlemen. And that's an abusive thing.
To your home. So you need to understand and start educating yourself and others. That's the thing about
children.
About this movement and children. Yeah, don't talk to XYZ. So Gina Jenkins, let's talk about her for a second. I think she was a comment.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Here we go. You go stir the pot, ain't you, girl?
So
Lord. Lord. What a corrupt, worthless, absolutely just ripped to me. Just a sense of evil and stuff that comes off that woman and the mouth on that woman in the courtroom, the things that she did before court and the things she said before and screaming through the courtroom, the way she did was so unprofessional. And I don't see how she got hers out of a Cracker Jack box or less, or sent off her and after she ate so many boxes of cereal or something, but how she obtains it and maintains a law license with insurance and or a bond is beyond me. It's disgusting. So
when I first hired her, I hired her because of the CPS allegation that, my ex pulled out from nowhere. So I hired her, and one of the first things that I asked, this was in, I guess it would have been, I can't remember, 2023. I forgot. But anyway, I hired her. And when CPS was coming to schedule a meeting with me, I told her, I said, look, I don't feel comfortable with these people coming into my home. They came into my home last time. This was like a few months before. Mm-hmm. Went through everything. They looked at my refrigerator. They looked at, I don't drink.
Illegal search. Yeah.
I had a wine, like a decorative wine bottle. It was clearly empty. It had lights inside. And this woman asked me if I drank. And I'm like, no, I don't drink. And she was like, well, why do you have an empty wine bottle? And I'm like, dude, it has decorative lights in it. I mean, it was just insane. She asked me if I had guns in the home, which I did. And I told her then, I was like, what is that to you? What does it matter if I do? Like, I have a Second Amendment right to have guns. Anyway, so the second time I asked Gina, I was like, I don't feel comfortable with this woman coming into my house. And she said, you have to let her in. Now I have a text message. She's like, you have to let her in.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. And looking back, I should have gone with my gut. That's why I'm telling people, like, go with your intuition, go with your gut. And I should have, because that CPS worker, she came in and she ended up turning on me. And I'm like, and I didn't record. I asked Gina, I was like, well, should I record the conversations? No, you shouldn't. And I'm just sitting here like, what the
mass heck? Cover up, the RICO all over there is Gina Jenkins, 100%. Yeah, that's cover up. That's bad legal advice. She did not advise you properly of your Fourth Amendment rights, which is a violation of her oath. And like I said, and I hope she's watching and everything else to wake up, because we're coming for you, Gina. And as well as, one of the other GALs that was in mine was actually Aaron Shad. Now, Aaron Shad was recently put on as a magistrate. It ain't going to be for long there, Cupcake. because
No,
she's coming off
no.
there too because of violation of constitutional rights and her oath.
Yeah, I've heard a lot
I mean, but
about.
you see how all their buddy systems connect is you say, well, I had her for an attorney. Well, she was a GAL on one side, and the last thing she did, she never questioned anything. Well, how did you get into the you're talking about children first and children safety with CPS, which is an absolute lie. Because the first thing that she did when you look through the report of this and that, you should have thought about the child's safety. A government worker or anything in a house without a warrant or anything else should have been a huge red flag when you read the reports of, we got a problem. You just screwed up our whole case. Why? You entered the home with no warrant.
Yeah.
And then a CPS worker lied. Well, she let me in. That ain't the way this works, because even under the rules of law, the parents are supposed to be under the law, even in family court, the ones that you're supposed to believe. But if you come in the house and you put that you've been in the house and you've questioned, you've just committed 2 constitutional rights violations, and it's going to come to a he said, she said, but the judges turn around, they're going to side with what? They're money makers, the state employees, which are CPS in this case, because they work for the state. They're not subcontractors in this state.
Right.
And of course, these judges are supposed to look through this paperwork with constitutional goggles as well as your attorneys of saying, wait a minute, because that's an automatic dismissal in any other case, civil or criminal.
Right. Yeah. No.
If you violate that, it's fruit from a poisonous tree. We can't go forward. Anything from here forward is fruit from a poisonous tree.
Yeah. And they knew that the things that I was saying was true. I mean, technically, they retaliated against me. So I filed my first. Well, let me go back. November a year ago was when I started educating myself. I had no idea. I was completely off of social media last year this time. Technically on Thanksgiving night, my sister calls me and she's like, you got to get on TikTok. There's 100 moms that I'm seeing, going through the same thing you are. So I get on TikTok, then I get on Facebook and start getting onto some groups. And I fired my attorney a day before Christmas. Then we had the hearing January 12th. Then I filed my first constitutional violation against Judge Harrington on February 7th. February 14th, I'm getting a knock on my door from law enforcement in Shelby County, Alabama, saying we're taking your son. And then 6 weeks after that, they came after my daughter. But all of this is complete retaliation. That's why they have the gag order on me. They're like, you're not allowed to post pictures of your kids. And I'm like, well, why? Because me posting pictures of me being a good mother to my children is going to expose the fact that you're a criminal. So that's why I post pictures of my kids, in addition to the fact that I have the First Amendment right to free speech, and that falls under protected activity. And so, but going back to Gina Jenkins, I mean, so she actually withdrew my case. I fired Alan Bray. She withdrew from my case, but the reason why she withdrew, and I didn't know it until recently, the reason was because one of my last conversations, I was going back and listening to all the recordings that I have of these attorneys, and I said to her, look, I'm not going to sit down. I'm not going to be quiet. This was about this time last year. I said, I'm not going to sit quiet. I want to see my son for Christmas. And if you don't start acting, I'm going to sue the shit out of all of you. And she thought I was bluffing. But then I started talking to her in constitutional language. And here's why I know that she knows that I was right. Because as soon as I get into court, when I was firing Alan Bray, she withdrew. She shows up and she's like, she withdrew. And she told me in the court that day, she said, I have to withdraw because of all the allegations and the proof that you have about the state agents. And she handed me all my paperwork and she walked away. I was like, well, all right, then. I guess you know that her kids, she homeschools her kids because she can't. It's not because she wants to homeschool them because she's a Christian mom. I don't know if I should say this. I probably shouldn't.
We'll just leave the kids out of it. How about that? We'll just, there are multiple reasons people do it, and not only and we're seeing, and okay, let's explore a little bit with the homeschooling, because there is an upward trend of not just it was a stereotypical thing of good Christian parents or people that were churchgoers, so on and so forth, that were homeschooling their kids. We're seeing mainstream people, blue collar workers, so on and so forth, moving over to this, and there has been a big movement even in the court systems. Matter of fact, Sharon with Kentucky, the judge that she has up there specifically said on the record, I hate homeschooling. And she caught her on the record, caught a recording of her saying it. And that is bias in the courtroom and charges, once again, notice, and then she began to backtrack
Right.
with what she said. Oh, that's not what I meant. No, that was the exact context you did, because tell me what other reason you had, because there was nothing else you had before you stole my children. Because there
Right.
is no thing. You don't even have jurisdiction. You just keep rolling over. And this is a thing I've noticed too. Family court cases and everything else, or in family law, they like to move fast so they don't get caught. Because if you have time to think,
Oh, you're talking
you're going
about
to go, wait a minute. Yeah. I mean, how they move so fast. Like, well, we'll just assume it has so-and-so been in the county or in the state for so many days, or this and that. We believe so, Your Honor. The judge's job is to verify that that is true. That is the point of you sitting up there instead of collecting an easy thing. That's why you're supposed to be up there, because you know the rules better. You're the one guiding the traffic, not just let's hurry up and get through this and get to the next case. Why? Because that's the way they treat them. And if they took and did that, they would say, wait a minute, we don't have jurisdiction over this case too now. Because like I said, we're getting ready to file the criminal charges side, both with the FBI and with the states, both Kentucky and Tennessee. And when those criminal charges drop, guys, we're going to educate you on this. Matter of fact, we've got another AI. If you guys didn't catch right before on the CPS Breaking News Network, the Punisher AI has been released for family court systems. It is more competent when it was analyzed and everything else of some of these other AIs, even I think it was Cornwell and everything else, and a few other different AIs and things on there. But this one's geared specifically towards CPS cases. And you can use this thing from beginning to end. You can scan in your documents. You can do everything else with it. And it will help you along the way based off of your input. As a matter of fact, it's a platform that even attorneys can use hand in hand. And this was just, like I said, they're doing a soft release that was just done. But this AI we put together from multiple cases, and I've actually worked with the creators on some of this stuff, as well as several others have added to it to make it, hey, let's make sure it has this. Let's make sure it does that. Let's see, what are some of the things they deal with? Where does it pull its information from? And get its smart thinking to where it looks other places where it mostly doesn't, because what it does is it pulls off these things off the Freedom of Information Act, or they must publish this stuff, or it is public. You just got to know how to get into it. So the search engine can search websites and everything that's searched in it and collectively bring it together for this. And now we're also working on a criminal one, an AI thing that I'm putting in, because we're working together our criminal charges of actually, you can put in your state and it will tell you tell it like it, your story, put in the documents, put as much information as you can, and it will literally spit out, turn around and say, this person did this, and here's all the state codes they violated, and here's all the federal ones that they violated. So you just send these over to the attorney general's offices in your state, or send it to DC, and all of a sudden you've done half the homework for the investigative team. They don't have to even investigate the crime, because everything right there, including the evidence, is there. I mean, we're going to simplify stuff for law enforcement to where you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, I don't think that the judges, the law enforcement, I don't think that they were ready for AI.
Oh, no, because it caught them. So the lawsuits that came after, especially, that's why ChatGPT, because I believe the one thing, and I haven't had a chance to check it yet, is one of my rabbit holes, because I've had so many, is ChatGPT probably got hit by every state, every county, everything else, and this and that for that AI, and trying to, you know what I'm saying, sue them multiply on multiple platforms in every state and every county, that the thing with this and that, say, hey, we're going to pull back from that and the medical.
Yeah, I saw that.
ChatGPT did.
Yeah.
So we're seeing some of that stuff done, but I know as we go forth with our AI, one of the things they think, it's not even an argument, it's filing some papers. Why? Because this debate over the AI and what it does is the same argument that we had, and I'm going to show my age here, Jessica, just a little bit, but I'm sure you understand too, is a company called LegalZoom. LegalZoom was actually sued by the court systems in several states and so on and so forth for the same thing of saying, listen, we're just providing the documents or the outlines.
Right.
What people put into it is
Mhm.
the end result. That's the same thing as this AI. It's just been, like I said, programmed, which a lot of people have been trying to doing with chat GBT and stuff, which they're going to start blocking that. And I'll agree with you, because even some of the court clerks are getting caught using AI, as well as some of the attorneys. Like, wait a minute, you didn't write this. This is AI. Because it always has a little tell, because it's a programmer's thing that they do, that there's little signs that the judges and stuff got into it. Says, you got that off AI. Matter of fact, this is the programmer. Well, how do you know that? There's a little similar thing. There's no way you can do away with it, once again, because it's embedded in the program, because that's part of their copyright, or their trademarks and so on.
Right.
And I think it blindsided people, as you were saying. They weren't ready, because they had to be accountable for once.
Right. Yeah. That, and it's educating people. I mean, it's, yes,
Yeah.
there's an element there where you're able to kind of spit out emotion in 5 seconds. But when people are reading through that motion, it's educating people. And then the people are going into the court and they're able to stand on the rights that they just learned about through AI. I mean, the amount of knowledge that has exploded just in the last 2 years regarding court and the use of AI. I mean, it's been a game changer for a lot of people. And it's interesting, even to the point of just verifying, because I know one of the first things that
Oh
I did
yeah.
was I sent all of my records. I mean, there was like 600 pages worth of documents. I scanned it all in, ran it all through AI, and I said, I want you to analyze this, and you tell me from a neutral perspective. I want you to pretend like you're the judge. I want you to tell
Right.
me how it should have gone. How should this case rule? And it was in my favor. And the
Mm-hmm.
funniest part about it is that it was more in my favor as far as custody, alimony, child support. It was more in my favor than what I was even willing to presume. So I
Yeah.
wasn't going after child support. I told my attorneys, I was like, I don't want child support. I don't want my ex holding that over my head for the next however many years. And I don't want alimony. I don't want these things. But they forced me into having to go after that, and I
Yeah,
didn't know.
all these
I didn't
systems, yeah, put it in there because they get a cut on it.
all because
Because then, if you guys settled, let's put it,
yeah,
say, in any divorce case, if you settled once again, as I did in my divorce, that from my first wife, to turn around, that we took and had agreed to everything. We had everything worked out. There was no reason even to go into court of this. It's like, judge, just sign off on this. We're in total agreement with everything we have, which is the way it's supposed to be. Because there's no benefit, like I said, weighed the pros and cons, had the arguments outside the courtroom, besides wasting time. Um, that I think that's a huge thing that people don't understand is, act like adults. If you're going to get divorced,
right,
it's over. Let's just follow the rules. And there's the whole thing that people can't get around of, is everybody's always looking for a workaround, or or a loophole, or an angle, or something like that, or a way to abuse, or sponge, or anything else on any part of the system, because we have forgotten in this country about accountability. um, there's
yeah.
if you
Accountability.
do something, you got to be accountable.
Yeah, but it comes back to just love other people. Like I was the
Yeah.
one that asked for divorce in my case, but it was for no other reason than to just find some type of relief, like relief, psychological relief. It was bad when I was having panic attacks when he's coming home from work around 4 o'clock.
Right.
And so some of the stuff was just, but I still wanted to separate peacefully and cordially. And I didn't realize the actual extent of the abuse until probably 18 months, 2 years after I actually separated. And I was like, wow, that was a lot more than what I thought, when I was living in the moment. But he literally took everything. And here I am sitting with, let's separate all this peacefully. You don't need $250,000 worth of stuff all to yourself to leave me with everything except, or leave me with nothing except for the
Well,
kids
I
and
mean, the law is the law. It's just that simple. It's what you have before you get to keep, and what anything in between is 50-50, and that's just the law. That's the law. I mean, that's just, it's as simple and cut dry as that. And meet that 50-50 threshold. And when the administrative law judge, in their capacity for divorces, to give you an example, that should be the perfect example of things, is this equitable? Is this fair to both sides? Is one person not being taken advantage of over the order? That's all they're supposed to do.
Right.
And other than that, work things out with the kids. Don't use the kids as weapons. If I find out you're using the kids as weapons, I'm going to take them from you. And it's just, so the judge would lay down things, but now they're counting on you screwing up, because the more you're in the courtroom, the more you're paying the attorney, the more you're benefiting their friends from the bar and everything else. This is revenue. They're creating their own work with what they're doing in these family court systems. The number one job in law enforcement or legal, or the most sought degree right now, or for the biggest need that they predict in the future, according to those indicators, is a family law attorney.
Right. Yeah.
They can't produce enough of them.
Here's something else that I think we should probably start investigating, and that is, how much money do people spend when they go to court? Say that, you know, court starts at 9, they're always ordered to be there at 9 a.m., right? But like in our case, if you go on a Wednesday, you're not going to get into the court until 11, but you still have to be there at 9. And so you literally have, especially if you have a $400 an hour attorney, that's $800 for an attorney to literally just sit there and twiddle their thumbs.
Yep.
And
Milk the clock. Milk the clock.
So I have a recording with Lisa Graves, who is Tammy Harrington's secretary.
Mm-hmm.
I have a recording with her where I talked to her about this. And I'm like, if court starts at 9, am I going to be able to walk in and actually see the judge at 9? Or my court start at 11 or noon or 1? And she was like, well, it will probably start later, because you have 3 cases that need to be heard before you. And I said, well, do you guys anticipate or expect that people like attorneys should be billing during those hours?
Yeah.
Like those are billable hours for the attorneys? And she said, yes. And I said, well, how is that possible? And she equated it to a doctor's office. She said, well, it's just like when you go in and you sit in a doctor's office and you sit in the waiting room and you wait for the doctor, you have to pay for the doctor. And I said, no, it's not, because I'm not paying for the time that I'm sitting in the waiting room.
No, I'm paying for the service for the time I'm there.
I'm paying for the service. And she was just like, But that's something else, I think, on a RICO case, or the RICO side of things, that we should start looking into, because is that really billable hours? You know, especially when these judges are calling 5 attorneys to sit in for hours and wait. That's thousands and thousands of dollars just going out the door for people that most of them don't have money to pay. I mean, let's face it. Nobody in America right now, because America has completely demolished us on the socioeconomic side of our society. They have demolished us. I mean, it's very difficult to live with $100,000 paycheck comfortably, right?
Right.
So nobody has the money to go and pay $800 for an attorney to just sit before you have trial. And then after you have a 4-day trial.
Well, and think about this, though, because where they learn this is the billing practices of once again, this rolls over from family court, because they're getting it for the CPS. So if your CPS attorneys out there, they may do this, that, but court starts at 9. So I'm going to start billing you for sitting here all day. And the same thing, but they're not billing you, or they may be billing you. But think of what they're all getting on, once again, if they're sitting on both sides, or, you know, working as a GL or this, that, it's billable hours. They can run that up. Why? Well, Your Honor, I didn't know what time you were going to start, and I didn't have anything planned today, but you're one case, so I'm here all day. So I'm going to bill for a whole day.
Right.
And so you look at that as well as everything else that they come in, because, you know, they know they're going to be closer, you know, at least give a smaller window, I think is what you're saying, is saying, listen, I expect this case to take from here to here. We're not going to run this. And I've been in those, like I said, on the civil side, to where once again, a lot of people don't know, I was a former small business owner here in Blount County, providing a service that was absolutely necessary, that they just destroyed. And that took away tons of knowledge and everything, let alone the certifications I had was part of infrastructure. Matter of fact, when they took that out and we closed down everything else, they now have to have people from out of state come in and do what I could do here locally for major infrastructure, not just for Blount County, but for Sevier County and several other surrounding counties that I serviced. That was this, because I was certified in all standby generator systems. So when the power goes out, those generators kick in. So the phone and emergency services kick in. So your cable doesn't go out and all those other things. Now I didn't handle the hospitals. Those were usually done, a lot of them in-house. But those were like some of the contracts and stuff like that that we were getting. And to be honest with you, I think it pissed off some of the bigger boys here. And I'm really exploring that methodology too, of doing some investigation on some of those, and whether or not the larger electrical companies that are here, if you're in Blount County, the two I'm talking about, the two massive ones, and well-known ones, are politically connected. Why? Because they're just huge, or they've given money, or they're in politics, or that to shut down somebody. Because I was taking contracts from big boys, and they didn't like that. I mean, that was like, hey, we can't have that, so here's something else we can do.
So they saw.
Well, I'm just kind of curious, as we began some investigation and look at that criminal aspect of that. Yeah. Was there some phone calls made? Because you and I both know the politics around here, that if certain people or groups don't like you, especially those that are in what we call the Blount partnership, that is for nothing but growth. But you notice that 50% number, the larger and faster we grew, the more foster kids to re-educate and reprogram all the poor kids that went all the way through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hand in hand, that growth meant what? More trafficking. Yeah. More stealing from kids, that here, let's just destroy them. And then how many people moved out of Blount County that were originally from Blount County, Tennessee, that they forced out because you couldn't afford to live here no more?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
it happens. I mean,
I'm saying there's a correlation there that you can look at. If we looked at, and I encourage all of our watchers and everything, go to your public school platform. Ask them how many kids are in foster care that are in your system. And if that number is 50%, like I said, anything I would say above 15, 20% at the worst, that's really, really pushing it. If it's any higher than that, you're dealing with child trafficking. You're dealing with the corrupt system. You're looking at, all these other things that are going on. Listen, the White House has already admitted that CPS trafficked children under the Biden administration. They have come out with this stuff. The Department of Justice is fully aware of what these administrative law judges are doing, and already said, we are pulling back the protection of that. We're no longer going to protect you for violating the Constitution, and saying and admitting it was happening. But I think that's a big thing, that we're seeing some of that here firsthand in Blount County. That we've saw the corruption, we've saw the trafficking, we've saw the destruction, we've saw the people that had the history and some of the culture and everything else got taken over and sold for $1, and didn't keep that balance because they grew so fast. I remember when I first came down here over 20 years ago, it was just a small little town. It was a nice little town. I mean, they had just got done with the Alcoa Walmart, I think was about it. Over in that section, other than that, like in Heritage Crossing across the street over there, where all that went up over there, that was a field, and everything was fields, and there was so much grass and so much beauty that was in Blount County. And now, I mean, I get out just a little bit, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's this old farmland, and next thing you know, here's a whole 4 or 5 story apartment complex full of tons of people and everything else. And then you go over now towards the Walmart in Alcoa, and we see this thing because it makes more money, because you make more money on real estate. If you go up, you make profit. If you spread out, it costs you more. And when you have these high-rise apartments and everything all around here, and it went from, you used to find a decent place for $1,000, $1,200 a month. Now I think rent around here is like what, $2,000 for a 2-bedroom to $2,500. Wow. And people, I can't pay that. Right. I mean, and like you said, that we can't afford that. So a lot of originals from Blount County either push farther out into the county, or they're relocating to other places, and it's just pushing out. But once again, all the culture's gone.
Yeah, I see Blount County completely different light. I mean, my ex got a job there at the base in Alcoa in 2019, and that's when we moved. I just remember I was like, oh my gosh, this is like heaven. It's peaceful. You know, I just love everything. We became members of, you know, Faith Promise Church, and then this, you know, this hit in 2021 when I asked for a separation, and had no idea. I had no freaking idea what I was walking into. You know, I'm thankful that I did it. I wouldn't go back and say not to, because of where God has brought us. But I just would have never thought that this was happening in America at this scale if I didn't see it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's why I have empathy for people, even my family. My family's like, Jess, you're doing something wrong. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm not.
Yes.
These things are
That's
actually
a huge, yeah, a
you know,
huge misconception with family courts and CPS and this and that. If CPS is involved in your life, then you've done something wrong. That
yeah,
is not the case.
yeah,
They are actively they are searching for new customers constantly, and under anything, or they will lie on reports or anything else, anything they can. Why? Because it brings more money to the machine. These are people, understand. Let me explain one thing too. These court systems, these family court systems and CPS are nothing more than a cost to the people. It brings zero benefit to the people and to the families, anything. Well, because actually those services, even the family courts and CPS, was previously known as Friends of the Court, to facilitate and say, listen, CPS, get with them. They need some aid. Get them together with the local programs. If they need food, you're required by law to use that Title IV money to get them food. If they don't have shelter, you need to take some of that Title IV money and go find this family shelter and keep them together.
right.
Under the purpose. That
Yes.
was the point of this.
Yeah.
But they weaponized it, and they found out a way we could turn it into a money-making business. It's not supposed to be a money-making business. This is supposed to be a burden upon them for a reason, to take care of those that are of the lowest of low at the worst of worst, and to get them out of that cycle of poverty and dependency.
Yeah.
And or just, they have no family, which is what foster care is only supposed to be for, is when there is no family.
The problem with
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, the problem with our government is that we're operating so closely, like we mentioned at the beginning of this meeting. Mentioned that we're operating so closely to Nazi Germany that it's scary.
Yeah.
If anybody ever goes to DC, just take $13. It costs $13 to go to the Holocaust Museum. You will not regret it, and it will blow your mind how closely aligned we are right now to walking straight into another Nazi Germany. But when you think about our systems, you take into account fusion centers, which we won't go too much into that, but that's what connects your medical records, your law enforcement, your CPS, your food stamps. It connects us all together. So when you take all of these centers together, anytime that you are pinged in one of our government systems, it literally is like putting that yellow badge, the yellow star, that, had to wear in Nazi Germany. So it's like having a yellow star pinned on you. And so now if you were arrested for something 10 years ago for drugs or whatever, now you go into a hospital and you have a baby. Now we're finding there's a pattern where somehow social workers in the hospital are finding out that you were previously arrested for drugs. Now all of a sudden they think that they can come in and take your newborn child.
Yep.
And then they're out putting them in foster care, and they're adopting these children out because of something that happened 10 years ago. I mean, where we are in our society is there's no doubt that they are trafficking our children for profit. They are destroying our families for profit, because the identities here, the identities of the adult parents, are completely being destroyed. And we have parents that come, or I have parents that come to me all the time, and they're like, maybe I am a nobody. Maybe I really do have a problem. Maybe I am depressed. Maybe I am a bad mom. Maybe I am a bad dad. So they're going after the identity of the person. And that's where we are trying to provide this almost like a new identity, like with going around.
It creates a series of doubts psychologically, because if you start doubting that, it makes you automatically go back and question everything else in your life of, if I was incorrect in that, what am I wrong about in any other areas of my life?
Yeah.
So now you've created doubt instead of confidence, which allows them to do more illegal stuff.
Right.
Because you're not going to think about, you were done me wrong and I know you did me wrong and now I'm going to hold you accountable attitude. It's, oh my gosh, I'm being attacked. But once again, that goes back to the conditioning and public education, everything else, in my opinion, to go back to those particular things where you get conditioned and it'll just follow the system. Just put your heads down. This is, everybody form up in a line. This is where we eat. And when you look at the public school system, it almost mimics, except for, larger groups, if you will. Although, Gen Pop's probably got that. Our prison systems.
Yeah.
Why is our children being conditioned from day one to go into a prison system?
I remember when Adeline went to school in Shelby County, Alabama. I walked in for the first time and I'm like, cinder block walls, white and red. It was so prison-esque. And that's when I started correlating these. I'm like, they are literally conditioning these children to think that this is okay to be all lined up and all fences and walking along. They had lines that the children had to walk on. And I'm sitting there now, now that I'm looking into the prison system and you see that they have lines that they have to walk on. It's freaking insane. And it really is like a psyop over America's children.
Now, if you guys don't follow me, if you follow me on Facebook, once again, I know some of you are on TikTok and they go, well, how come, Gunnar, where are you on TikTok? I was banned from TikTok for misinformation, for breaking all this stuff and putting this out there on TikTok, that they permanently banned me. Matter of fact, once our case is over and everything else, yes, we will be filing a federal lawsuit against TikTok for violation of the First Amendment. And it was not information. But if you follow me, we usually go on Facebook. You guys can find me under Gunnar Evers. That's there. You just follow there. Or you can do under the show. We have a page, Gunning for the number 4 CPS. You can go there. And to answer a previous question I seen in the comments, excuse me, as far as that AI is concerned, we were talking about, keep an eye on those 2 pages because we will be posting links. And Jessica, I'll let you know when that comes out too, because I'll get you a copy of the link to get to your people too, because this is a huge tool that's going there. But getting back to those things, watch those things, and that's where you can get a lot of this information. And I know a lot of people have had a lot of complaints of saying, "Well, Gunnar, you're not on TikTok, and I'd love to watch you on TikTok," and it's just like, I can't. And people post videos or share them on Facebook and go, here, this TikTok video. I can't get on TikTok, man. I'm blocked from TikTok. Like, they just tried new accounts, everything else. And this is for giving you guys the truth, because we were getting so close and the things we were exploring. This is why we moved over to our own podcast and with the CPS Breaking News Network to go through those particulars of saying the truth has got to get out there. We have got to keep screaming it, as they say, from the mountaintops, if you will, and from every far corner. Because why? Because the loudest wheel or the noisiest gear gets the most oil, gets the most attention. This is what CPS doesn't want us to do, or these corrupt family court systems, or people like Harrington and Bedingfield, to come out and call them out on the rug of saying, I've got you. And then other people go, whoa, wait a minute, that happened to you too. It's not just you. All of a sudden, the people have a voice, and people need to remember our Constitution is very, very, very unique, as it was written as a contract between we, the people, as the authors, to those that represent us in the government. In other words, the government doesn't rule over us. Yeah. We, the people, have the power. And when we come together and we say we're not going to allow that, even though certain powers to be said, well, we're going to vote it, we're going to do it. When the people speak up and say no, we're the ones that are supposed to be heard. See, this is what our court systems are for, and why it says in the Constitution to make our petitions known. Our petitions are filing in the court systems. But here's the other thing. Besides not teaching your constitutional rights, how many people out there are trying to struggle with filing a federal case, just a simple 1983, against these people? And like, I don't know, it got kicked back. And you try to tell them, keep all your emotion out of it and keep it all about constitutional rights violations. Just that simple. Fight in the right court. How many times have we gone through that? Hey, you're not going to do any good. These family courts they're kangaroo courts. They're a joke. They're not even a real courtroom. They're not even a constitutional courtroom.
Right.
Congress never gave the state of New York was the first one to create the first family court. These courts weren't even created by Congress. They're not even legal.
Hmm. I didn't
But
know that.
because they do it is because we give them the power, or we relinquish this either by getting an attorney of doing this and doing that. And a lot of people laugh at some of the sovereigns and some of the others that are out there. But let me tell you something. It may not be your particular method, but you may want to look at some of their perspectives, because it does line up a lot with constitutional and common law. But for a judge or magistrate, like in my case, to say, we don't deal with constitutional issues in this courtroom, that's not a legal courtroom. It has no power. But the way it has power is through coercion and or RICO, as Jessica was talking about. Why? Who's going to enforce it? They're going to put it on the state record, which is fraud, as something enforceable, because it's not enforceable. And two, it's going to be backed up by what? Law enforcement. But it's not a legal courtroom to even have, they shouldn't even have the abilities to even put those things there.
Right.
The idea of family court is to do what? Deal with juvenile things, to make sure that there's juvenile, under the law. And they're only supposed to be dealing with divorces and wills and this and that. This whole thing of weaponizing, and that's the thing that even in the divorce cases, the staggering number of, like I said, we had talked about before some of those other statistics, but the staggering cases, numbers of attorneys saying, just accuse your spouse of abuse or this or that and get CPS involved and we'll get more money, because it makes more money for their client. But then going to the more recent post of talking about how many kids that go into foster care, and then girls that by the age of 19, 50% of them are pregnant with that. And then I think it was 74% end up in back into the prison system or into the court system again for more money into the higher courts for the prison system, and then even higher when they go into prison. So they're creating a product, and it all starts with the family court system.
It's a reoccurring revenue for them, 100%.
All the way up. And here's the other thing people, I don't think they realize. Most of the jails and everything else, especially the larger jails, are independent private companies.
Yeah, they're ran by Core Civic.
Yeah. So they're making profit. So they are, of course, going to do things that will profit them either now or in the future. Hey, we support this, and they have political influence. They end up doing with petitioning lobbying the politicians and everything else to pass bills to do these things, to continue the cycle, because it benefits them. This is why all of our prisons are so overcrowded.
So the owners of Core Civic started right there in Tennessee. Did you know that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right there.
There's a lot of things, girl, that was here in Tennessee, believe it or not, that a lot of people don't know, all the way from Nashville to Memphis, even Knoxville, just north of us. But these systematics come in here for saying you could knock out a cost that cost every family, like you were talking about the cost. I mean, you're looking at $50,000 to $100,000 to $200,000 to get into these family court systems with CPS, not even including the divorce cases, and stuff like that. And once again, there's no power of law enforcement. CPS doesn't have the power of law enforcement. They're not sworn. They're not, a state cannot give away the power of a duly elected person. When your sheriff is elected to do something, the state can't say, we're going to take that power away from them and we're going to give it over to people that are actors, not even elected officials.
Yeah.
And now we have control.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they, if there's any CPS workers working, this is not directed towards you, but it is a well-known fact that CPS workers are some of the lowest IQ'd, the lowest educated individuals in the world. I mean, the first time that I had a CPS worker come into my home, I remember I was like, what just happened? She walked out like, what just happened? She couldn't even say a full sentence correctly. Yeah. And this woman is over my life and is going to decide what happens to my children.
But one thing they're really good at doing is they know how to lie and manipulate really good.
Yeah, they know how to intimidate.
They are. Oh yeah. And I'm going to pump my chest out. I'm going to do this and that. And I'm going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you, I have the right to do this. You're interfering with my investigation. You're not law enforcement. Piss off. And then they retaliate and go, they wouldn't let me in their house.
Mm-hmm.
How many
Yep.
times and if you look at it, you know how many times they request within the state of Tennessee that they want in the home and there's no warrant? If you do kinship care, we got to come in the house and inspect the house so you can get your own kids in kinship. No, you don't. That's a violation. That's called coercion by the courts of Fourth Amendment.
They also say, I'm going to document that you were uncooperative. Okay, fantastic. You know, that's great.
See, and this is one thing, and I get it, you're not a violent person, but being from the Chicagoland area, one of the things, you know, we had a lot of things with respect. If somebody come up to my door and did that stuff back in the day, you get knocked the hell out. You come up to my door saying and threatening me like something like that. I'd beat the hell out of you and leave you out in the street. One, because you're on my curtilage and you're on my property. You ain't got no legal right here. This is my home.
Yeah. This is
and
why
you got to understand the right.
This is why I encourage people, get your no trespassing signs and put them at the front of your front of your property. I mean, if they cross that sign after being made aware, that's what you're doing. You're making them aware that this is private property.
Game on.
You know, go ahead and get those signs. They don't look pretty, but who cares? You know, and if they cross
I've
that
got
line,
one. Yeah, I've got one in the front of my house that says it right there. And here's the thing, guys, when you post these, they have to be visible from the street. So go out to the street and make sure you can see it clearly, not obstructed or anything else and this and that. That is supposed to, once again, once that's posted, they're not supposed to go this. Now, we've got one step further. We actually have no trespass orders against CPS and Blount County Sheriff's Office for my home. And they've both been served with the color of law. You just fill out a no trespass thing and you serve it. Certified mail, you've been notified and you hold on to it. Once it's served, it's 100% active. That means they're not even allowed to do the whole knock, knock, knock. Nope, you've got a note, you've been trespassed. Mm-hmm. Once you come on again, it's a criminal act. Now, that will bite them in the butt, and that's why they don't come around, because once again, I know my rights. You send somebody that has been trespassed on my property armed, regardless if you're the sheriff's department or not, that badge and that you're coming on my property with a gun as a threat and form of intimidation, and you've been trespassed. Now it's got serious, because constitutionally speaking, you violated, and now you're considered an imminent threat under the law. Now you've got a problem. And then the sheriff and everybody else around here knows this. Matter of fact, they knew, because they got them on camera too, to where I says, we've got a federal case in this, and this is retaliation, and called them out on it. And one of the deputies literally turned around. It was like, damn it, we didn't know. We didn't know. Why? Because those that do know, like what you were saying, they're going to know they're in deep trouble, because they just lost their job and they should have never showed up. And here's the other thing. Let's talk about misappropriation of funds real quick, and then we'll wrap things up, especially with the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
If the sheriff's office shows up and there's no crime, why are you here protecting CPS that it's a civil matter? That's misappropriation of funds and resources by the sheriff's department.
Yeah, 100%.
There's been no crime. You're here to intimidate now.
Right.
That's pure intimidation. Why? Because there's been no crime. Dispatch has not been called. There's no probable cause for you to be here or to be dispatched, other than working security for somebody. And on top of it, this is the disgusting part, especially Blount, all you sheriff's deputies out there, especially Blount County, listen real good. When you watch these CPS workers break the law, such as questioning somebody on private property or trying to get into somebody's property, under your damn oath, you're supposed to put the handcuffs on them and arrest them right there on the spot, because you have witnessed a crime. Asking people questions on private property is a form of seizure under the Fourth Amendment case law, Doe et al. Versus Heck et al. Very clearly, and it deals with all governments. You cannot ask questions. This is why you're supposed to say, we'd like to ask you some questions and take you downtown. But you notice they quit doing that, right? So when these deputies do this stuff, you violated your oath, but you also committed a felony, because now you're aiding and abetting especially with the one that showed up at my door on July 7th of this year, beat on my door, open my door. Can I help you? You need to talk to her, which was another CPS worker come to harass us because we filed our federal case. And I go, so you knocked on my door in your official capacity and power as a sheriff's deputy to force me to speak to this person, which on my private property, which then began to ask me questions and everything else recorded, committing felonies, and you stand there with another deputy and 2 caseworkers, and you didn't protect the people that you were elected as in the sheriff's office, that the sheriff failed to have his deputies take in what? Protect the people that elected you. That is called violation of your oath, Mr. Barong, and improper training, because we know that you're following an unconstitutional order from the state saying you must protect these people. Your job, had you had done it right, as well as every other sheriff out there, when you got that from the state, you should have gone to a judge and got a warrant and go picked up the person that signed that to you. Because I will not do that against my people in my county. Violate or cover for your crimes.
And this is where the legislative branch at the county level comes into play, because as we're going around this country putting all of the county commissioners on notice, that's what we're telling them. You are continuing to pay the sheriff's department and the deputies to go out. And that's one of the things that I bring up regarding the family side is every time you have a law enforcement officer that is accompanying CPS to go and unlawfully remove children from loving, healthy, fit parents, when there is no evidence of abuse, there is no emergency, there is no compelling state interest to remove these children, you're paying them to do these things. So once we put them on notice, it's going to be so freaking easy. This is why
to do that, but to turn around, these are Article.
Did I freeze? You froze. Anyway, for those of you that are on Facebook, what I was going to say is that it'll be so easy for us to go back after we have provided the notice for the county commissioners, and we go back and we're like, hey, we provided this on, July 22nd of 2025, and on October such and such, you had your deputies that went out and frickin', assisted CPS in removing the kids. You guys continue to pay them after you're made aware. Sorry, I was still talking to Facebook. Came back on.
Well, I once again, we had that we're touching on a touchy subject here, and they don't like that. Once again, once it comes down to those particular things too, is you're looking at criminal activity. Your officers are witnessing crimes, participating in a crime. The judge can say present them to the court or do this, and that. But if they're secured in their home with the Fourth Amendment, and you go into that house with a court order, an Article 4 judge doesn't have the power to enter the home.
Right.
There's the other issue that these officers are ripping these kids of saying, Your Honor, that order was given by an Article 4 judge. An Article 4 judge does not have the power to do that within the courts. Why? Because Congress has not given them that power. Right. The state cannot give that power away to that. Only an Article 3 judge can say enter the home. Those children were in my home and secure, and they are a protected person under this, and that judge doesn't have the power. Right. And when they take and they look at that, and you can point that out on top of that, oh, wait a minute, you got judges giving or orders that they don't have the power to give? Yes, these family court judges think that they are exactly a big boy judge in the big boy courtroom in the big criminal court and have that power and have earned the same equality. See, there's that whole thing for that bullshit equality of you're not to that level. You don't have that power. You haven't demonstrated that you understand the concept of it, obviously with the illegal acts that you're doing, but the fact that you're not even educating the deputies. Did you know which judge did sign this?
Right.
No. Did you teach the deputies that it has to come from an Article 3 if those kids are in the house? So long, if they don't leave the house, they're not out in public, you can't.
Right.
You can't.
Nope, they don't.
And if you do, you've just committed a crime. And when you articulate that way, well, oh, wait a minute. Yes, you've got family court judges saying, I'm having CPS remove the kids. Well, we have a court order to remove the kids. So the kids are in the house. Mm-hmm. Kids are on my property. You can't. So long as it's here, I'm secure under the Fourth Amendment. And when you turn around, once again, because they'll keep doing that stuff back and forth, to cover each other. Of course, they're not going to take it and look at it from a constitutional perspective, but they should. They're required to. It's part of their oath. It's part of their insurance, everything else, but part of the class. But then it goes into, are they getting paid training to properly say and think, instead of being a robot as a deputy, to turn around and say, is this constitutional what I'm doing? Right. Because they're not even asking that question. They're just doing what they were trained to do. And like you said, you've got other, people in law enforcement that have come forward here in Blount County, here in other counties and everything else, of saying, listen, man, I wasn't going to follow an unconstitutional order, but at the same time, I sure as hell wouldn't want that happen to me. Yeah. Yeah. There's the other thing, these people that are doing it, even these caseworkers, and none of them, of course, they don't have it. Most of them are snot-nosed kids that don't even know what it's like to sit with a baby, to raise a child, and raising 3 kids. You have no idea. You look at some snot-nosed 25 or 28-year-old, caseworker, or this and that. Well, we've got this little girl, little boy, you ain't got a clue what it takes to raise anybody. You ain't even raised your damn selves.
Yeah, a lot of times.
And every time you go through it, or you get some older lady that comes through that, man, she believes everything's for the state, and her political views line up with socialism. 100%. People that serve in our government offices and our government capabilities should be 100% American bred through and through. Socialism is illegal in this country. Matter of fact, there was just something passed in Congress making socialism, calling out socialism as being illegal in our country. It's now, I believe it's going to become a criminal act. So if you've got socialist points of views and this and that, it doesn't line up, you got a problem.
Yeah.
But, what did you think about that song? Did you get a chance to hear that song that was played? I get it was a little rough. But what did you?
No, it was good. I mean, I'm a musician. I played in a Southern rock band for 2 years. And so I thought I was out here, I was headbanging. It was good. I liked it.
A little headbanging. We would get that in there. Guys, like I said, so we're going to wrap things up. Jessica, where can they find, I know with everything that you've got going on, you've got an organization, so on and so forth, and then connection ties here to Blount County. What are some of the ways that they can take in, the audience can take and get a hold of you? Or maybe, like you said, find you to get up-to-date news on certain things, especially on the Blount County case for a lot of us locals. Where could they find that?
So Facebook right now, I have not posted that video for Blount County on TikTok, but I will. Facebook, TikTok, it's just my name, Jessica Saxton, justicewithoutlimits.org. That's the website. I have scammer accounts, guys. They're not mine. There are other people that are pretending to be me. But if they don't have 50,000+ followers on their account, and if they don't have 14,000 followers on TikTok, so 50,000 on Facebook, 13 on TikTok, it's not me. So make sure if people are pretending to be me that you check it. They will ask you for money, for donations. I do operate 100% on donations, but I don't ask individuals for money. So if you get these messages, know that it is not me. And then Justice Without Limits, that's our website. And I say our, when I say our, I mean we the people. I actually got the website over a year ago. I didn't know what for. And it was the craziest thing in the world how God has just developed this. But it literally is a website that I'm taking constructive criticism on. I don't really have that much experience building websites, but now we have a website. So there's a website that you can go to. You can look at, the county commissioner's scripts are there. The affidavits to serve to the county commissioners are there. There's a lot of different things that we're doing just to raise awareness and literally to put these people on public notice. We're putting them on notice. We're serving them the affidavits. They have a duty to act under 18 USC subsection 4, which is misprision of felony. Whoever, is made aware of these crimes, they have to act, they have to report the crimes. So we're doing this, and my goal here is to get all 3,143 counties done. We want all these counties served.
Right.
We need people all over the nation. If you are in a specific county, please get up with me. If you want to serve these affidavits, you can do it. We're having a training tomorrow night, actually. So if you want to get on that email list, if you haven't done this already, don't do it twice, because I'm getting too many people that are thinking that they're missing out. If you've already gone onto the website and you have joined the movement, just join the movement, fill out that form, and I'll get you on the email list, and I'll email you a Zoom link. We're having training tomorrow night. So
And
that's what,
guys, don't forget to with like I said, our federal case too. If you guys have got sworn affidavits, I know you guys collect a lot of those and so forth. But guys, get one over to gunning for CPS at yahoo.com. That's gunning the number 4 and then CPS, just like the show. But it's at Yahoo, not Gmail, because Gmail has issues and they were starting to hack some of those different things. But keeping it about constitutional rights in the family courts, just real simple format, what state you're from, everything and forwards. These are things that are going to go on the federal record. We're going to put it in there. And I'm saying this is not just happening here; it's happening all across the country. But once again, there's different methodologies. Ours is an actual court case, and like I said, that with what you guys are doing, Jessica, it's more of putting them on the public. Once again, working in different avenues, because we all can't do the same thing. We got to attack it from multiple angles, and we're only one person. We can't do it all. But guys, don't forget those affidavits to get those in. We're still collecting those. I know we've kind of taken a break with things, but we've just really been hitting hard with some of the things there. And Jessica, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's been a great pleasure. And Blount County, just the ability to give Blount County a voice, especially those that have been abused, taken advantage by several of the state actors that we've included, as well as multi-state actors, I guess you could say, because it's not just one state, of how they network this corruption. This is a national problem. And this is why CPS needs to be abolished. The court systems need to be going back to exactly what they were designed, 50-50, before, after, keeping it simple. We have law enforcement for this, guys. Once again, we're not saying leave the children unprotected, but if there's been truly a crime, meet the criminal standard and then prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. And I know Blount County has been frustrated with some of the judgments that have come out with some of the teachers and so on and so forth that have been found guilty of doing sexual crimes against children, inappropriate touching, so on and so forth, let alone the amount of sentencing that they do. Well, and I know that the district attorney's office has said, well, we'll have to go to state legislators. That's one thing legislators need to look at too, is these crimes for actually doing it, where they have true hard evidence of them harming children and abusing children to the fullest extent of the law. Repeat offenders, yeah, but the other thing we've got to look out for too is when some of these people get power, and we got to understand that too, which is why the standard for the criminal court is so high. Watching out for corruption, because people will frame you, including people that will work together in a RICO sense of the district attorney's office, failure to investigate crimes, the sheriff's office, failure to investigate crimes. All these things. Why? Because they're covering up the system, because they all benefit from this. Anybody that's involved in county resource of some sort or state resource, they all financially benefit from it. And it's not about, this is supposed to be a burden upon our society or anything else. It's not supposed to be a profit winning thing. And like I said, this is understanding you're glorifying, especially with child abuse and so on and so forth, those type of things, you're glorifying it by making it and accusing everybody of it to make a paycheck. And we're saying that this is a new norm, that we have that many. And for 50% of the children in Blount County, Tennessee, to be in foster care, it shows a huge red flag for corruption. And all the markers are there, Jessica. I mean, and you know that, and most people just, I can't take it anymore, but somebody's going to have to stand up and do something Somebody's going to have to speak for the children. Somebody's going to have to speak for the families that can't, the families that are so broken because of these court systems that I've literally seen these court systems try and tear families apart over false allegations and everything else for them to make money, and then cause divorce to go through the divorce court because it makes more money for the same system, especially here in Blount County. This is all about them getting rich. And if anything, this should be the scourge of our society that we even have this, but to glorify it and make it such a big issue where it's not is almost utterly disgusting. We shouldn't be glorifying this stuff. We should be looking down our nose. It should be the scourge upon us. We should do better as a community, as a society, as an individual, to not allow those things to happen. But I think the one important thing is that we got to point out too, it's not up to the responsibility of the government. It's up to we the people.
It's us.
That's where the power lies.
You said someone needs to speak up, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, it's us. It's us.
Yeah.
Like, we are the ones
that's why we're here.
And get this
Absolutely.
done. That's why I keep encouraging people, don't be silent anymore. If you're silent, they're going to win. You're literally, if you forfeit, if you stop talking, if you stop exercising your power that has been granted to you. Remember, the Constitution was put in place to protect the people from the government, not the government from the people.
It was meant to restrain the government, not to restrain the people.
So we need to start
Jessica,
as our authority. Let's just keep it rolling, keep it going. Thank you.
Update through Blount County, Tennessee, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks again, Jess. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Talk with you later.
Well, guys, there it is. Names are named. It's out there in the open. Mass corruption. If you're here in Blount County and you know all this stuff's going on, it's time. It's time to come together. It's time to speak out. It's time for your voice to be heard, not just in Blount County, Tennessee, but a lot of this people are saying across the country. That story sounds just like mine. Well, guys, it's time to come together with the people of your county and stand up. Go follow me on Facebook. It'll be at the closing credits this net where you can get in touch with us. You can send us letters. You can send us emails, so on and so forth. All those things to reach out to us. Guys, stay strong. Love on each other. Just remember, you're not the only one going through it. And remember, you got to make a choice. Regardless of what comes against you, you still have the power of choice that can never be taken from you. And choose that I won't stand for this anymore. Our voices are being heard, and it's about to all come down. And yes, we're looking forward to Canada having their revolution up there with everything that's going there, John. Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. Join us again next week for another edition of Gunning for CPS. Have a great day, guys.
Saxton, when Kentucky crossed the line, took her babies for revenge, thought they'd break her spine. But every tear she cried turned into molten steel. Forged a blade called justice that no court can conceal. From Maryville to Frankfurt, the corrupt began to run. They woke the sleeping giant, and the reckoning begun. Now 1 million parents marched with torches in their hands, from the hollers to the cities across these stolen lands. Gunner's voice on the podcast was the battle horn blast. Every episode another nail in the empire's casket. He named the day, he named the hour, he named the final stand. He called it the reckoning. Now it's sweeping the land. This is not politics. This is not left. This is not left or right. This is the line in the dirt where parents say, not one more child tonight. Gunner Evers drew it. Sharon Evers holds it. America crosses it together. When the last courthouse falls and the last black robe burns, when When the last caseworker flees and the last stolen child returns, we'll raise a monument on the ashes of their throne, carved in Tennessee granite with these words alone. Here died tyranny at the hands of a dad and mom. The reckoning came, 2020 seats the storm.
This is the reckoning. Gunner Evers poking loud. Blount County in ruins, Kentucky in a shroud. CPS is finished. Hear the death knell ring. Every stolen child coming home on